Hey friends, welcome to Lesson 9 of the 2013 version of Classroom in a Book Adobe Illustrator CC. They were working with perspective drawing, using the perspective grid. This is going to help us kind of align objects from a flat 2D space and give it a 3D look. Now before we actually get into the software, we're going to look at perspective. Now this is a lesson plan from my other class where they're doing mandalas, which is not relevant to what we're doing. But we also do perspective, 1 and 2 point. Now you may remember this from art class where it's sort of a graphic device to help things vanish out into the distance. And there's a horizon line and a vanishing point. Now if you look, we have a horizon line, a vanishing point, and everything seems to line up. All the lines are aligned to that point to give the look of something having depth as opposed to something having a very flat, amateur 2D-ish look. And you may remember doing these little boxes as a kid to make a 3D box in class, and this is kind of the same idea. Now here is an illustration done in 1 point, and the point refers to the vanishing point. And everything kind of vanishes on out to that, all those lines are just lining on up. And it gives the look of depth. It makes the image look way more dynamic than if it was just a flat image. Here is a photograph, almost nearly the same scene. But you can see that it happens in real life, where things further away look smaller, and they kind of appear to taper off to a single point. Here is it kind of sketched out onto a photograph. Horizon point, vanishing points, and all of these lines are lining up. And this one has a lot of great lines to help emphasize that look. This kind of helps you draw it 2-point perspectives. There's 2 vanishing points. And then there's the worm's eye view up top, and then the bird's eye view underneath, and then the straight level, and everything's kind of pulling off. 1 point is easier than 2-point perspective, to keep that in mind. And as you can see, so this is a bedroom with it. And with 2-point perspective, the vanishing points are actually usually off of the visual plane. And everything kind of pulls on out. And this is another example. Here you go with it, you have kind of a center line, and things are going to be tapering off that way. And then also we're going to talk a little bit about atmospheric and aerial perspective. It doesn't really play, but when you're creating an illustration and you want to make something look realistic, things further away, they kind of decrease in vividness, darkness, brightness. So it's less saturated. We drive through the mountains every day in Phoenix, and you see the mountains are further away. They're not as bright as the ones up top because the atmospheric perspective. Now the land brightness increases with distance. That may kind of be confusing because the contrast decreases. But this color is brighter than 1. Here's another one you can kind of see further away in the mountains. There's not as much information, detail, it's a little fuzzy. Here it's a little further away, here and here. So there's multiple planes of view. And here's an illustration with it. So this would be mimicking what you would be, may have to encounter with working with a client to create an illustrative scene. Look at all that depth. Now if it was all just one shade, it would not have the same impact. If it was reversed, it would look a little off. So we're going to get into actually working into the software. So Adobe Illustrator CC, we have end open, and we're making this sort of advertisement. And we have some type, and we have these two objects, and it's like a perfume. So this is what we're working on today. So we're on page 270. As you can tell, we're kind of getting closer to the end of this textbook. So you might want to reset essentials. Ooh, I'm on the wrong thing. To start you off. And we're going to actually rename this L9add.ai. L9 add. All right. So in our layers panel, we're going to expand it open. And we're going to look at the perspective layer once this finishes saving. And there's some different stuff kind of going on over here. So we're going to be on the perspective layer. The other ones are locked, and we're going to deal with those later. So we're going to select the perspective grid tool in the tools panel. It's going to default to a 2-point perspective, which is non-printing. So once we open it up, and you may have accidentally opened this before and get kind of lost. I know students in my other classes tend to open it up and they kind of freak out. So the icons actually look a little different in the book, but it's kind of these L icons. Shift P is the keyboard setting for it. So if you want to pull open, it's Shift P, and if sometimes it kind of opens up and you get confused. I'm going to write down Shift P. So it's 2-point because the vanishing points are here and here. And this helps us align things up. So there's a figure on the bottom of 217 that kind of helps you figure this out. So up here is the plane switching widget. It helps us change whatever plane we are on. B is our vertical widget right here. C is the perspective grid ruler. So if it's not showing by default, that's fine. We'll work on it later. You see there's some numerals. D is the left vanishing point here. E is indicating our horizon line. F is our horizon height. So here to here is our horizon height. G is our ground level midpoint, which is going to be right here. H is the extent of grid. So ours is right there, that little widget there. I is the size between. J is the right plane control. K is the horizontal plane control. And L is the left plane control. M is the origin, which is this dot here. O is the right vanishing point. P is the horizon level again. And Q is the ground level point. So to begin this lesson, we're going to work with the perspective grid starting with an Illustrator preset. The perspective grid by default is set up as a 2-point perspective. You can easily change the grid to 1-point, 2-point, or 3-point using presets, which is what we're going to do next. We're going to go to View, Perspective Grid, 3-point perspective. View, Perspective Grid, 3-point perspective, 3P normal view. And as it shifts down. In addition to showing vanishing points for each wall, there's now points showing the walls receding within to the ground or high in space. So you can see how it kind of, so there's a plane here, here, and here. And we'll talk about when you would use that. It's not as common as 1 or 2 point. So we're going to go to perspective grids and go to 2 point. And you see it kind of pulls it on up. To create artwork using the perspective grid, you can adjust the grid using the perspective grid tool or the define grid command. You can make changes to the grid if you have content on it. However, it's easier to establish what your grid looks like first, and then you add your content, because then you can use those guides to create whatever thing you need to do. So to make sure our smart guides are on, view smart guides, done or command U. And with the perspective grid tool, position the pointer over the left ground level point, which is here. And you see if you hover over, the cursor has kind of these compass arrows kind of thing going on. And drag it to the left and move the whole perspective grid. You can match the position in the figure as closely as you can. So we're kind of looking and that's how we're moving the whole grid. The left and right ground points help you drag it. So if I were to make it over to the right, I can do this one as well. And they help with alignment. Next, we're going to change the height of the grid. So using, with the perspective grid tool, position the pointer over the vertical grid, which is right there, and the hover is going to be these kind of 4 boxes. And we're going to drag the vertical extent up. Actually, we're going to take it down. As you see, it shortens things. And position the pointer over the right end of the horizon line. Drag the end of the horizon line to the pointer shows a vertical arrow. So over here, horizon line, and we're going to drag it up until we see 270 point in the gray measurement. All right. About how close I can get. The next, we're going to adjust the planes so you can draw a product box that shows one side more than the other. So we're kind of making a 3D box for our client because we have to do this perfume ad. So we're going to zoom out. And you see when you zoom out, it kind of changes the size, the perspective. It is still the same size, but the cubes are readjusting so we can see things. And choose View Perspective Grid Lock Station Point. Now with the perspective tool, position the pointer over the right vanishing point where the pointer includes a horizontal arrow. I'm actually going to kind of zoom in. So this one. And we're going to drag it to the right until the measurement label shows an X value of approximately 15 inches. So you may have to kind of shuffle over. There we go. This changes both planes on the grid, and the product box will have a more visible right face. So this is going to let us know this right face right here will be more visible. Setting the grid up for your drawing is an important step for the artwork. It helps us align things up to make it look accurate as opposed to us kind of guessing with our lines. Typically in drawing classes, they have to do their points and draw these lines and erase them. You may have to do that in one of your courses. So we're going to fit the artboard in our window. You can do view art border. I could just zoom out. And so we're going to view perspective grid, define grid. So we're going to change the following options. So these units, we're going to change it to inches. Grid line every, instead of 4.2, and change it to third, or 0.3. Changing the grid line option adjusts the grid cell size and help you be more precise when drawing. It helps us kind of get everything all set up. And everything kind of matches. I might want to change my viewing angle over to 29.48, just so I have what's matching within the text. And I'm going to click OK. Actually, the textbook has OK and cancel swapped with on my computer. And this is where you can make all those nice adjustments. And right now, it should look pretty close to this, and it doesn't have to exactly match. So we're going to view perspective grid, lock grid, because we don't want to accidentally move it. And we're going to do a Command S, and this will be the end of video 1 for lesson 9.